Hello there, this is Nee B back with another upload of experimental importance. I hope you're doing okay and you're having a good day so far. I really do like making these videos and sharing the information that I have that can hopefully explain away and give you a completely different take on the science fiction of heliocentricity. Now, I sometimes find it very difficult nowadays to intellectually intermingle with the Newtonian Copernican society, so I do look forward to making these uploads, especially the principal testing upload, part 6. Now, this is going to be a mix of fix of tricks, real proof with big kicks. Now, the reason I said, folks, and I still stand by the way, 100% in part 5 of the series, in case that you missed it, was that the seasons are one of the greatest proofs that we have for a flat Earth, simply because the sun never sets. He circles above, at most high it's noontime, more or less, and is the cause for the reoccurrence of the seasons every year. And definitely not, certainly not, the heliocentric Copernican tail, Earth tilting and spinning on an axis, going near and far, orbiting the sun. Please check it out in case that you missed it, folks, and really come right back, bringing us to part 6, the experiments, and why we know that the Earth really doesn't move. Now, it doesn't move, folks, it doesn't spin, it doesn't gyrate, and has never rotated. And how do we know conclusively? Well, there has been, let's say, over the last 120 or so years, many scientific experiments and tests performed by certain and special scientists, very credible ones at that. Now, they have all performed and proved conclusively that the Earth has no rotation, has never had any rotation whatsoever. And there is exactly today, 2018, 0% scientific proof of a spinning Earth. Now and throughout history, there has been 0% scientific proof. There is exactly 0% video camera digital footage of the spinning Earth proof, 2018. But folks, there is only, and I mean only, the proposed general imagination of one. Now, in the heliocentricity model, the heliocentric model, we are told that there are no special places. There is no up, no down, no left, no right, but every single experiment tells us we are indeed in a special place. Now, we can start in 1871. A chap called G.B. Airy used a telescope filled with water as an intended method to slow the light of stars to actually confirm the heliocentricity model. Now, Airy's water-filled telescope failed to prove the Copernican model, but he did confirm the geostationary model, which is simply the sun and moon and the luminaries rotate around a fixed Earth, which will be the correct, and obviously the most plausible one for all life on plain Earth. Now, the Michelson-Morley or Michelson-Morley experiment was a scientific experiment of great importance. Now, this, folks, was to actually find the presence and properties of a substance called ether, a substance actually believed to fill empty space. Now, the experiment was done by Albert A. Michelson and Edward Morley back in 1887, a year before the Flammarion engraving was presented to the Earth. Michelson was the first actual American to win the Nobel Prize in the sciences, by the way. So this is how credible he was. The original purpose of the experiment wasn't just to prove the existence of the luminiferous ether, but was to actually test if the Earth rotates or not. Now, Albert Michelson and Edward Morley actually compared the speed of light in varying directions in an attempt to detect the relative motion of matter through the ether. Now, there was no difference, folks, in the speed of light in the varying direction as presumed. meaning that there was no movement of the Earth in any single direction, which caused a varying speed in the light movement. Now, the result, folks, in the scientific community was very, very troubling. So what were they going to do? Actually admit that the Earth really doesn't spin? Oh no. Oh no. This needed to be silenced quickly. So in order to counter this unexpected negative result, as all practical physics would be completely wrong, Einstein's theory of special relativity was constructed to try to explain away the crazy hypothetical ideas of relative time, mass, length, etc. So there is no way to tell if the Earth is actually moving or not. It is all relative. But folks, they were all colleagues, you know, at one point, and they all knew each other. So when the Michelson, Gale and Pierson experiment was performed later in 1925, we could say it was a modified version of the Michelson or Michelson-Morley experiment, and actually the Sagnac interferometer. Now, in short, folks, George Sagnac was another French physicist who also set up an experiment to prove the existence of the ether that Einstein's theory of special relativity had earlier discarded. But Sagnac again, folks, was proved right. So the Michelson, Gale and Pierson test, they would actually test the theory of special relativity and the luminiferous ether along with the rotating frame of Earth, if it actually had any at all. But the real aim, folks, was to actually find out whether the rotation of Earth is actually real, scientifically testable. But the MG experiment, now they used this large ring interferometer that was large enough to detect if there was any single angular velocity of the Earth. Like the original Michelson-Morley experiment, this is, as I said, essentially the Sagnac experiment, but on a much larger scale. Now they constructed this huge ring interferometer and fixed it on the ground and then performed their experiments that was required. And guess what, folks? As before, they did not detect any single rotation of the Earth whatsoever. But they did detect the ether, because the same results tested, repeated and observed 100%, folks, contradicted the theory of heliocentricity and relativity. You will not see these published in any papers, very conveniently. Now, Nikola Tesla, a physicist, an incredible man, folks, an inventor, the man who gave us the entire 20th century in the first place, by the way, was yet another forgotten genius who also proved the fraud Einstein was very wrong indeed, folks. He performed experiments proving ether as a force of nature and states, only the existence of a field of force can account for the motions of the bodies as observed. All literature on this subject is futile and destined to oblivion. So are all attempts to explain the workings of the universe without recognizing the existence of the ether and the indispensable function it plays in the phenomena. My second discovery was of a physical truth of the greatest importance, as I have searched the entire scientific records in more than half a dozen languages for a long time without finding the least anticipation. I consider myself the original discoverer of this truth, which can only be expressed by this statement: there is no energy in matter other than that received from the environment. Now, those are very powerful words, folks. Please digest them slowly. As far as I know, no standard text on the history of physics mentions the magnificent Tesla, even though his ideas would lead to Nobel Prizes when they were further developed by future and other scientists. And today, folks, we use his electric car model. He proved Einstein wrong 100% and was discredited for it. Einstein had the connections and all the others didn't. And like poor Tesla, like the others, you will not find these experiments in any of the controlled science books, new or old, anywhere on the plain Earth today. Simply because they all contradict this heliocentricity, spinning globe Earth theory. And did you know, folks, even the great Galileo even rejected the heliocentricity model in the end, when he was presented with so-called proof of it, and after defending it for almost 30 years of his life, hated it and knew it was wrong. Now, further little-known experiments have been carried out by other scientists. One called Paul Nordmeyer in the year 1903. He set up to test the Earth's velocity in relation to the intensities of light from the heavenly bodies. But again, folks, he too also failed to discover any movement. Nordmeyer's experiments were a refinement of the Michelson-Morley experiment earlier to attempt to measure the Earth's rotation under the direction of a physicist named Alfred Bucharera. Once again, folks, no evidence of rotation has ever been or was ever discovered. Now, the Troughton-Noble experiment was another attempt to detect motion of the Earth through the luminiferous ether, and was conducted in 1901 through to 1903 by Frederick Thomas Troughton and H.R. Noble. It was based on a suggestion by George Fitzgerald that a charged parallel plate capacitor moving through the ether should orientate itself perpendicular to the motion. Now, like the earlier Michelson and Michelson-Morley experiment, folks, Troughton and Noble obtained this null result. No motion relative to the ether could be detected at all. And this null result has been reproduced with increasing sensitivity by others such as Rudolf Tomaschek in 1925 and 1926, Dr. Chase in 1926 and 1927, and Hayden as far late as 1994. And every one of these reproductions all test that the Earth has exactly 0% rotation. So are you beginning to see a pattern emerging here, folks? The Earth does not spin. It has never rotated a single mile ever. Lots of genuine, honest, scientific tests performed over many years, every single one of them coming to the same conclusion of that same null result. The result of geocentricity or geostationary status, if you will. There isn't many folks nowadays, if any, contemporary experiments tried or performed that are actually testing the so-called spin on Earth, because, to be honest, what would be the point? We know that the Earth does not move. But what you will find are computer-generated digital tests that can be easily tampered with, easily indoctrinated and made up, just like the data from so-called orbiting satellite signals. Now, we are not enemies, folks, but friends. Though passion may have strained, it must not break our bonds of affection. Lincoln. From the words of the mighty Martin Luther, a philosopher. People gave ear to an upstart astrologer who strove to show that Earth revolves, not the heavens or the firmament, the sun and the moon. Whoever wishes to appear clever must devise some new system, which of all systems is of course the very best. This fool wishes to reverse the entire science of astronomy, but sacred scripture tells us that Joshua commanded the sun to stand still and not the earth. Now, if you also get a chance, folks, please check out a 2004 documentary entitled The Principle. Incredible. The Earth really is a fixed, motionless plane, folks. The actual science experiments all performed have all tested to this fact scientifically. Hence, this is the reason, the exact reason, why the experiments are a real flat Earth fact on the plane. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in part 7. Peace and love to you, and you take care on this plain Earth. Hit that sub and certainly that notification bell if you are new to the channel. TTFN.